fellas, the UFC have just announced a bunch of big fights to kick off the Paramount deal in 2026, and we'll go in there with the first main event, Paddy Pimblett versus Justin Gaethje, the main event of UFC 324. I've got mixed opinions on this fight. Now, the fight itself, I think is going to be a banger, but I have an issue with the matchmaking and how you can call this a title fight in 2026. I know it's for the interim belt and not the undisputed lightweight, but we got Topuria as the champion, the best guy at 155, he's the champion. Tsarukyan should be the second guy, like the second best in the division. If anything, he should be classed as the second best. It's hard to sell a title fight main event with Paddy Pimblett and Justin Gaethje without either Topuria or Tsarukyan being one of the halves of the main event. It's hard to sell that, in my opinion. And yeah, you've got Gaethje and Pimblett. My issue with this is what's Arman going to do? Because if this is for the interim belt, the winner's going to fight the champion. What the fuck does Arman do? He's just won. He took no damage. He said he's ready for January. Assuming that Ilya's going to come back in maybe summer or spring of 2026 and fight the winner, who the hell fights Arman? And this is a shame because we want to see Arman versus Ilia Topuria next. Now, the fight itself, I think is going to be a banger. I mean, you've got Justin Gaethje, one of the most violent guys of all time. I think if you put him in an octagon with Paddy Pimblett, who also just had a scrap with Michael Chandler, there's no way this is a boring fight. So it's not like it's going to be a bad fight. I think it's a great fight. Probably going to be one of the better title fights we've had in a long time. Two guys that go out there to scrap. The fight itself is going to be a banger, but again, it's hard to sell this as a title fight. And what the hell is Arman Tsarukyan going to do specifically? Is he going to get the fight with Ilya? Which, if that was the case, this wouldn't be for the interim belt. So the fight itself, I haven't got a problem with. It's just the matchmaking for the interim lightweight championship. It would have made a lot more sense just to do this without a belt being on the line and just to book Ilya versus Arman in spring of next year. So I've got an issue with this being for the interim belt. Neither of these guys, maybe if they show me something crazy at UFC 324, I'll change my mind. But as of right now, neither of these guys, in my opinion, are ever touching gold, real gold. They don't stand a chance against Tsarukyan or Topuria, and therefore, this being a main event for the interim lightweight championship, it's hard to sell this, in my opinion. And my only prediction is going to be Pimblett by TKO. I think Gaethje is definitely past his prime. He's been out for quite some time now. I know Paddy has too, but Paddy's looked better progressively. He just demolished Chandler, and I think Paddy's going to get the fight to the ground and smash up Justin Gaethje, man. I think Paddy's really big for 155. His grappling's going to be sick. He's in his prime. I don't know how I'm expecting Gaethje to look, especially when he got taken down by Figueiredo, and, you know, basically mounted by Figueiredo in their last fight on short notice. So I think Paddy Pimblett smashes him, wins a belt, probably gets to fight with Ilya, and then gets sparked out, which is a shame because, again, it seems like every time we get a massive fight approaching with Ilya, he ends up fucking it up with the Makhachev situation now with Arman. So it should be a great fight, Gaethje versus Pimblett to kick off the Paramount deal, but for it being an interim lightweight championship main event, I don't know how I feel about that. I feel like the only reason this is an interim belt on the line is so that it's not a women MMA headliner. That's how I see it. But yeah, Paddy Gaethje, great fight. Terrible matchmaking. And then Volkanovski versus Diego Lopez 2. What the fuck is this? What have the matchmakers done? This is $1 billion company, the UFC, and they've got supposedly the best matchmakers in the world. And this is what they've come up with. Volkanovski versus Lopez 2, the fight that approximately 0 people were calling for. I don't understand this one bit. We just saw this in April of 2025. We literally just saw it this year. It's not even like this is like an old rematch. Volkanovski hasn't had a single fight since the fight with Lopez. It's not like he's gone out there and cleared out the rest of the featherweight division and Lopez is the only top guy. He's had not a single fight. He's just beat Lopez and now has immediately rematched him. Lopez has one win over number 12 ranked Gene Silva, who was by no means a top contender, and now he's getting an immediate title fight. This makes no sense. What about Lerone Murphy? Undefeated Lerone Murphy, 17-0 in this massive winning streak, 4 ranked wins, and he just sparked out Aaron Pico to give himself a highlight reel at UFC 319. Why is he not taking down Alexander Volkanovski? He did a tweet saying that missing the opportunity to fight one of the featherweight goats is what hurts me the most, and this is the problem with the UFC. It ain't about the best versus the best anymore. What about Movsar Evloev, another undefeated fighter, 19-0 on this big winning streak, 4 ranked wins, who literally has a win over Diego Lopez back in 2023? How are you selling me Lopez versus Volkanovski 2? This makes no sense. It's so, how can this be a title fight? We just saw it this year. It isn't like, you know, Lopez has gone and dusted off 2 or 3 more contenders and Volkanovski's maybe beaten one of the top contenders in Evloev or Lerone Murphy. He hasn't done that. This just seems really forced. This is one of the most bizarre title fights we've had in a long time, and definitely going to go down as some of the worst matchmaking in modern history. They've done it in Sydney in Australia for the 21st of January. We've got 2 numbered cards back to back, which is going to be interesting. But yeah, Volkanovski versus Lopez 2. This is so bizarre. Now, it should be a fun fight, and I mean, we saw this fight earlier on this year, literally a couple of months back, and based off that fight, it was fun. It was back and forth, blockhead Lopez walking forward, eating shots, putting the pressure on Volkanovski. It was a great fight. But I just don't have the same hype this time around. I wanted to see Volkanovski against a fresh contender. I wanted to see Volkanovski active, not take a year out and take on a guy he's just beaten already. My early prediction is going to be Volk by decision because, again, we've just seen it. I mean, maybe because Volkanovski's aged a year and Lopez is coming off a really good win. Maybe the odds, slightly favouring Lopez's favour because he's the more dangerous guy. But I'm going to go with Volk by decision, but why are we seeing this again? We've just seen this fight in April. Lopez has 1 win. Volk has 0 wins since this fight. It's such a bizarre title fight, and yeah, I feel for Lerone Murphy. I feel for Movsar Evloev. It just makes no sense. Even if you wanted like a clear-cut contender, you had time to book Volkanovski for the rest of 2025 against either Murphy or Evloev, and then you could have done this fight. So, really bizarre title fight. I'm not excited at all. Should be a fun scrap, but again, it's hard to sell this as the best versus the best when Lopez hasn't really proved it. And then we've got Kayla Harrison versus Amanda Nunes, the fight that we also come in, and I think women MMA-wise, this is killing it. Women MMA has been killing it recently with this, and it is, in my opinion, going to be the biggest women MMA fight in the modern era. It is going to be a scrap. You've got the best in the world now in Kayla Harrison at 135. One of the best, most physical grapplers we've seen. Obviously comes from this big judo background. Demolished Juliana Pena last time we saw her out. And then you've got Amanda Nunes, who obviously is the god of women MMA, can do a bit of everything. She's been out for 2 years, but she's definitely the greatest of all time in women MMA. This is going to be a super interesting fight. We all saw this fight coming with it faced off after UFC 316. It was more of a matter of when, not if this fight was going to happen. But yeah, I'm super pumped for this. The best versus the GOAT. You've got, like I said, the most skilled women MMA fighter of all time against the best right now. Behemoth in Kayla Harrison. The only person who can really match Kayla Harrison in the bantamweight division is Amanda Nunes. So I'm looking forward to this. It's going to be a scrap. I'm really torn on who to pick because you'll kind of want to go with Nunes to win every fight. But then you're talking about Kayla Harrison, who, like I said, is a behemoth of a human being. Looks unstoppable at 135. Definitely one of the best women MMA fights we're ever going to have, in my opinion. But I'm going to go with Kayla Harrison to win this one by decision. Again, this is going to be tough for Harrison, man. It really is. I mean, to go 5 rounds with the GOAT Amanda Nunes, but I'm trusting that maybe Nunes, she's had 2 years off. She's obviously not been active. I'm assuming that she's past her prime, and she also lost to Juliana Pena a few years back, which is a terrible look, especially considering how easy Kayla Harrison got rid of her as well. And I think the grappling of Kayla Harrison, even though Nunes is great on the ground, she's a physical grappler. She's had time to prepare. She's easing into MMA. I think Harrison gets the job done, but despite that, he's a great title fight. And then we've got Sean O'Malley versus Song Yadong on that 324 card. I like this fight as well. This has been rumoured for like the past 6 months, and I'm glad it's kind of finally got a date. You've got obviously a KO artist, the highlight reel in Sean O'Malley, one of the most dangerous strikers, flashy strikers in the UFC. You've also put him a guy with a great chin, a guy that can crack as well in Song Yadong. So stylistically, should be quite a fun fight. O'Malley's obviously on a 2-fight losing streak, but they're both to the champ. Song Yadong's won 3 of his last 4. He needs a top guy. I like this fight a lot. It shouldn't be a title eliminator. It wouldn't surprise me if O'Malley wins and the UFC give him another title shot, but shouldn't be an eliminator. But 2 guys with heavy hands. I think O'Malley's definitely could get a highlight reel. It's a respectable win. We've finally seen O'Malley against another top contender in the top 5 as well, so good matchmaking. I think O'Malley starches him though, and this isn't anything against Song Yadong. Like I said, he's coming off a decent win of a Cejudo, even though there was eye pokes involved, and he has got a good chin. But I feel like O'Malley, we're going to see how good O'Malley has leveled up since the fight with Molenberg, because it's hard to base how much he's leveled up when he's taking on Marab. So I think O'Malley's striking is going to be sharp, clips Song Yadong, knocks him out. But it is going to be good to see O'Malley back in action. I think this should be a really fun fight. And then we've got Nurmagomedov versus Figueiredo on that same card, another big bantamweight fight for UFC 324. I like this fight a lot, and the reason I like this fight is because we're not giving Umar an immediate title fight, and this is good for the division. If we're going to see Marab versus Peter Yan and he needs like a #1 contender to face, this is that title eliminator fight. So I really like this fight. You've got 2 guys coming off wins, Nurmagomedov and Figueiredo. I like it a lot, and it is just a classic wrestler versus BJJ. You've got the second best wrestler in this division in Umar Nurmagomedov against arguably the best submission artist in this division in Davison Figueiredo, a former champion. Yeah, this is a really good fight. A fight that I've kind of wanted to see a while. It is a tough fight for both of them as well. I mean, after I saw Batista versus Nurmagomedov, I'm not so sure, but at the same time, Figueiredo's definitely past his prime. 2 grapplers, 2 top guys. Yeah, I'm glad that we've kind of seen all the top bantamweights face each other in the last few years. We've seen Jan versus Figueiredo, we've seen Jan and Merab, we've seen Figgy versus Sandhagen, we've seen Sandhagen versus Jan, we're now seeing Umar versus Figgy, so I'm glad we've seen them get against each other, but I'm going to go with Umar by decision. I am a firm believer that Umar Nurmagomedov is the best guy at 135 walking the planet outside of Merab, and I've just not been impressed by Figueiredo in his last couple of fights. He had a bit of a boring win over Montel Jackson, who I don't even think he's ranked anymore. He got demolished by Corey Sandhagen. He obviously lost to PTN as well with the wrestling, so I'm assuming that Nurmagomedov's kind of got to, out-wrestle him, do that control wrestling style across 15 minutes, take him down, evade danger, get the decision win. I'm going to go Umar by decision, and I think this is going to be good for Umar because if he does win, he's undeniably next for Merab or PTN, whoever wins that fight. And then we've got Waldo Cortes Acosta, Salsa Boy, back again. It seems like I'm mentioning this guy every week, against Derek Lewis. Another fire fight for the heavyweight division. These are the fights that need to be made in a division like heavyweight. And I think it should be a title eliminator, and that shouldn't be like a hot take to say either. I mean, Waldo Cortes Acosta, 5 fights this year, 4 wins, 2 of them being this month. And you've got Derek Lewis, who's got 2 knockouts in a row in 2 main events. And the thing I like about this fight is you know it's going to be a knockout. You've got one of the best knockout punchers in this division in Waldo Cortes Acosta, one of the best counter punchers in this division. And you've got Derek Lewis, the most prolific knockout artist of all time in MMA, hardest hitting guy in the UFC, most knockouts in UFC history. You know it's going to end in a knockout. And I like this as a title eliminator. Listen, I'm a fan of Volkov. I'm glad the judges gave him the robbery win over Gelson Almeida, but with that being said, we need new names at the top of this division. I'd rather see Derek Lewis versus Aspinall or Acosta versus Aspinall at this moment in time than Volkov, just because, you can sell them both better in my opinion because of Acosta's activity and Lewis's personality. They're better stylistic fights. So I'm a massive fan of this. 2 knockout machines, 2 guys coming off wins, 2 guys coming off winning streaks, both by knockout, eliminator in the heavyweight division on a pay-per-view main card. I'm a massive fan of this fight. In terms of who I'm picking to win, I've kind of been going back and forth on my pick. I'm going to go with Acosta to win this one by KO. First of all, I know having a good chin doesn't really mean shit against Derek Lewis, but we have seen Acosta have a decent chin. We saw that in the fight with Sergey Pavlovich, and to be fair to Derek Lewis, he's coming off wins over 2 guys that are barely ranked in the heavyweight division. Every single time Derek Lewis faces like another power puncher or good puncher, he seems to lose. We saw it in the fight with Tui Vaza. We saw it in the fight with Sergey Pavlovich, and I really do rate Acosta's boxing, so I think Acosta's going to clip him, knock him out, but you know what's going to happen in this fight. Somebody's getting slept, and they're getting booked against Aspinall right away for 2026. So, top fight in the heavyweight division. I love it for UFC 324, but I'm going to go with Acosta by knockout, the most active guy in the UFC right now. And then you've got not Derek Lewis, then you've got Arnold Allen versus Gene Silva. The return of Arnold Allen against Gene Silva. Another firefight, man. This is again one of those fights you know it's going to be a scrap. Arnold Allen, I always describe his style as just scrappy. He swings for the fences, really good kickboxing approach, but he's always putting the pressure on, and he just comes to scrap every single time. And Gene Silva is one of the most satisfying strikers to watch in the featherweight division. Obviously, one of the fighting nerds, really good timing, really powerful dude on the feet, heavy-handed. This is going to be a fucking bro, man. For a pay-per-view main card, the return of Arnold Allen to kick off the Paramount deal, this is just one of those fights where you need to get the bonuses ready. I think it's going to be a scrap. To be fair, I don't think it goes the distance either, which again, it shouldn't really be a hot take. And it's also good to see Arnold Allen back. He's been gone since July of 2024. We saw Tom Aspinall face Curtis Blades sooner than we've seen Arnold Allen and Gene Silva. So I'm glad that Allen's back against Gene Silva. I'm going to go with Gene Silva by TKO though, in my opinion. Now, I know what I do. I really do rate Allen's kickboxing, but one thing I will say about Allen is he does get caught a lot. In that fight with Holloway, he got tagged quite a bit. He put himself in danger in the fight with Dan Hooker. He got dropped. He got hit quite a bit by Giga Chikadze, and I think a guy is kind of smooth and powerful on the feet is Gene Silva, and especially with the inactivity of Arnold Allen, I do think Gene Silva's going to clip him and finish him at some point, but it should be a scrap. I think there's going to be a banger of a fight, and again, one of the fights where you already know there's going to be a bonus, and the perfect fight to kick off the Paramount deal. So, overall, UFC 324, apart from maybe the matchmaking in the main event, I think this is a really solid card. They've obviously stacked the card to kick off the Paramount deal, a bunch of top fights. I'm happy with most of the fights. One of the biggest women MMA fights we're going to see, 2 title fights technically, so UFC 324 off the bat, he's a banger of a card. And we've also got Quillen Salkild versus Benil Dariush, which isn't announced, but it's heavily rumoured, and I think Quillen Salkild leaked it himself for that Sydney card. on Jan 31st. This is a brutal fight, man. This just shows you how brutal the matchmaking can be with the UFC. Like, you've got 53-year-old Beneil Dariush, who's not only been knocked out by Oliveira in one of his past couple of fights, not only has been knocked out by Sarukian in his past couple of fights, he got knocked out 11 days ago, and now he's taking on Quillen Salkild, who's knocked out Jubilee in 19 seconds, and probably got the most brutal finish against Nasrat Hakparas, where he head kicked him out cold, unconscious on the canvas, flatlined a couple of months ago or weeks ago. This is brutal matchmaking, man. I'm obviously going to go with Salkild by KO. This just does seem like they're trying to build up a prospect in Salkild. Let him take out the old vet, who hasn't just been knocked out, but he got knocked out 11 days ago as well. So I think Salkild ices him in Sydney, takes out Dariush, gets him out the sport, and secures himself in the top 15. A couple other fights for UFC 324. We've got Nurmagomedov versus Grasso. Seems like this fight should have happened a long time ago. I'm going to go with Nurmagomedov to win. Grasso was not impressed me in the last couple of fights. She got dominated by Shevchenko, dominated by Natalia Yasova. Nurmagomedov is sort of picking it up again, so I think Nurmagomedov gets the job done by decision. And we've got the most threatening guy in the middleweight division, Ateba Gaethje, middleweight and Ngannou, against Andre Pulev. You already know what's going to happen. Ateba's finishing him in the first round. I really do feel like Ateba's going to be the next big thing at middleweight. With Sin, Pulev really got destroyed by Christine Leroy Duncan. I think Ateba Gaethje is going to smash him to pieces. I think Ateba knocks him out. But those are the fights that the UFC have just announced for the new Paramount deal. Now again, UFC 324 as a card is stacked. You know, it's better than most of the cards we've had this year on paper. It's insanely stacked, a bunch of big fights. But it's the matchmaking that's the issue. Volkanovski versus Lopez 2 is disgraceful. Gaethje versus Pimblett, not necessarily disgraceful, but it probably should not be for an interim belt, and it's only stuck on there to main event this card. But overall, I've got mixed opinions. I'm excited for the fights. I'm excited for the Paramount deal. There's some of the title fights coming up, not so much, but let me know your thoughts down below. Your thoughts on this situation. Do you agree? Disagree? Thank you for watching.